at the moment. But he's going to be, I want to be very careful with this new 1130 base. Want to make sure to mine up around it, put up some defenses, because it might be, especially in its early stages, it might be a very nice victim for that Reaver harass. At this moment, Canata is going to be a little bit up on the economy. He did have his natural expansion up earlier than BeSt did, and he is already putting down his third earlier, delayed BeSt's third meanwhile alongside. So I think he is a little bit economically ahead, but no economic damage has been done on either side, and BeSt really more in a position to do any sort of economic harass. Canata is just sort of kind of moving out with his forces. Does put up some defensive forces at that 11:30 o'clock. There is a Reaver coming in alongside Shell. There are a lot of mines around, so we're going to see who actually manages to get some Zealot bombs off. Doesn't quite manage the first time. Comsat station trying to come up. There is a Reaver there. Is going to give one Scarab off. It's gonna. Is it gonna dud? Or no, it duds right up against those vultures. Meanwhile, more turrets gonna. But only a couple of Dragoons lost. Not really that much lost on Canata's side from what I saw. Not as successful as he did take out that Comsat station before it was managed to come up, but really did not quite manage to pressure that position well enough. Canata with weapons 1 upgrades managing to keep up that wise as well. Just managing to push back BeSt at that location. Again, gonna drop. Oh, BeSt gonna drop the Reaver again. Gonna try to get a Scarab off into those, miss those vultures. BeSt actually, Canata splits those vultures right at the perfect time, and BeSt gonna wall off with pylons at this 4 o'clock, just as that expansion coming out. So BeSt also hitting the full macro mode, coming to the shuttle back. Some of his probes a little bit early, so they're going to be going back home unless BeSt spot this, which I of course assume he will. Vulture's actually standing outside of that. Is going to comsat that location and plant a few plant a few mines all over the place. Second armor already up for him, so he's going to be getting weapons 2 and armor 2 soon enough. Still has a lot of vultures out in the field. I really feel Terran needs to keep doing that. Needs to keep a semblance of map control. You don't even need a huge group of vultures, but you really need to go around here and there, produce a vulture here and there, put down mines, have map control, have map spotting, basically have all the information, knowing the troop movement, and mines, even if they get taken out, they do give you some of that information. You can also go around, do that exactly, pick off a probe here and there. That might have been BeSt going down to another location to put up another base, and that has been prevented temporarily. Even though BeSt can move out and clear all these mines up, that does take a while. He has his forces out in the open. It might give him a position to do something like this, to plant those webs around those Dragoons and pick them off. That's going to be 1 extra dead Dragoon. He did have to sacrifice a couple of vultures for that, but every little bit helps. Also managed to pick up yet another probe there, I believe it was. But just being a little bit irritating with these vultures overall, it's a good idea. Does have mines all over the place. I think he's already mined up most of the expansions that BeSt could possibly take at this point. BeSt still hasn't done any sort of economic damage to him. Already first science vessel out to ready against that Arbor that we saw come up for BeSt earlier. He's going to pick up his his mineral only, kind of at the sort of partially inside Sysclock Expo, something like that. 2 more gateways being added in there by BeSt. He's, what is that, 8 gateways I think at this point. I'm not quite sure whether my count is right. I just totally didn't count it. But yeah, he is hitting full macro mode. He's going to have Arbiter support, very early Arbiter support. He's going to have 2-3 Arbiters while he macros up his large army. Also going to have Zealots alongside. He's very Dragoon heavy at the moment, but he's going to have some Zealots alongside. I did see him earlier put down a fort, so weapons 2 is also going to be coming up. I'm going to wonder whether he puts down a second order or not to compete fully on upgrades. Because if Canata keeps up with those armories and doesn't allow them to be taken out, he's going to be ahead in upgrades this entire time. Actually, the Reaver, interestingly enough, being left at that 4 o'clock location. Not quite sure whether the shuttle still has a Reaver or not. Still flying around. A lot of Zealots already with speed upgrades running and milling around the field. And I'm just wondering whether BeSt is trying to find himself an opening. He is taking down another base. Putting up another base. I'm sorry, people don't like it when they call it taking it down. But already macroing up several, as I've already said a million times. So I'm just wondering whether he's trying to find an opening where it can possibly go for either a recall, do some sort of damage, or even take down a base. Outside factory is now being put down by Canata, so you can tell he's really also hitting the macro mode. Off these 3 bases and off these 3 gases, he's going to be able to play a while. Some mines going off all over the place, not killing that much. 1 Zealot taking quite a bit of those mines. Nice reaction there by BeSt. But I'm just wondering whether he's going around the map trying to spot out the positionings and trying to find an opening for himself. And Canata has, of course, already readied himself for recall. He's putting mines all over the place, turrets everywhere. Has a lot of his forces outside. Weapons 2 and armor 1 already up for him. I don't think Kanata's going to try to be too eager to expand yet again. BeSt's going to expand the lower left hand. Very aggressive expander, so he's going to try to win the game that way. Just get the macros so high to such a high level that Canata's partial turtling strategy is not really Canata's turtling strategy is not really going to help him win the game. Still mines all over the place, hitting some of those Dragoons. Those Vultures coming into play, also really helping Canata spot the troop movement, but also with the sciences in play, if it gets a good EMP off, they're also going to put really a lot of sciences on the field. Meanwhile, there's going to be an Arbiter going in the lower left side, is going to get spotted with the engineer. We're going to see what it's going to be right now. There are a lot of turrets there. I think he is going to get the recall off. A shuttle alongside in there, I think that was. But a lot of Zealots, a lot of Dragoons coming there. There's going to force a float of that command center. A lot of those forces, some of those forces move. Are going to die, but I'm not quite sure what this actually. I don't think he's going to get the command center. I don't think he has enough Dragoons to take it out. EMP goes off on those forces. Tanks and Vultures all coming in to reinforce the correct time. SCVs were moved out at a good position as well. Oh, Canata was meanwhile trying to take a base at the 1230. BeSt moving in with all of his Zealots, forced to cancel there and picked off the SCV. So he's already kind of harming the macro game at BeSt. There's not a lot of damage, but this is harming the macro game at BeSt. And because he's already taking down his own 5th base, getting Arbiters off 2 starports, also adding in the 2nd forge, which I honestly feel is a good idea. But because he's playing so aggressively on the macro, because he's going to be 2 bases ahead for a little while now, as soon as he gets to the lower left hand running, because Canata's not really going to be allowed to take his own 3rd. His mineral only is going to be quite a bit late. And he's going to go for yet another recall. But if that 4th, of Canata's continues to be late, BeSt is really going to be allowed to have enough forces that he can just throw a few of them here and there around. Got to be very careful to not lose his Arbiters alongside his recalls. If you want to recall, you got to be very careful not to lose his Arbiters. Because last time he lost it, far too many turrets in play for defensive play. There was kind of an opening play there by BeSt to open himself up for another recall later. There are the science cells in play. They're going to start hunting those Arbiters. Gets an MP off. Oh, I think he actually missed. I think the Arbiter got out of the way because I did not see its shields go down. So I think the Arbiter survived that plenty, and that's going to allow it position to go up and fly again, try again for recall. He is readying himself. This is going to be a much bigger recall than the last time. I'm just wondering who's going to go for the same position. There's Goliath in play, going to get a few shots off the recall. Still going to be safely coming in. Very close to the natural expansion. The Arbiter dies right away. There is a command. Oh, science vessel in play. Another science vessel. Wondering whether they've already gotten the MPs off or not. Canata has a force actually attacking the 4 o'clock base of BeSt's. Meanwhile, also going to move in to defend his own, actually. Not even floated up against command center, and moving his SCVs up to engage, not to try to save their lives this time, actually helping in the engagement, helping repair alongside surrounding those forces. Canata, meanwhile, is going to penetrate into BeSt's 4th, but he did have some of his own forces out in the field that did get taken out. These forces right here, what I'm talking about, he kind of split up his forces to try to penetrate BeSt's 4th. I'm not quite sure whether they actually took out the Nexus. Might have done some damage to the probes, but I don't think he actually took down the Nexus, or did still see a blip that probably represents that down there for BeSt. So BeSt still keeping up. He's still losing some forces here and there, but he's still keeping up macro-wise. His lower left hand is going full force, not getting the 4th gas yet. I'm not actually quite sure whether he needs it at this very moment. He should actually pick it up fairly soon. But Canata, I feel, doesn't have as much troop production at this point as BeSt has, because BeSt has those 5 fully active bases. Okay, this 4th base is not active at the moment because those pros have been cleared. I'm not quite sure whether they were all killed or some of them actually managed to escape to just barely. A lot of engagements going on at the same time. But Canata still not being allowed very critically to get a 4th base up, and he's going to need that very soon. He's going to go down and spot the lower left, and this is going to give him the information that BeSt is over 2 bases. He's 2 bases ahead of him, and he is going to want to, already has planted down a command center at that 1230. He's going to want to go and keep that, hold that base. Going to get an EMP off on 2 of the Arbiters. Almost got on all 3. That's very critical. That's going to take all stasis. Meanwhile, the Arbiter gets a stasis off on one of those sciences alongside a couple more units, and going to go and spot this 1230 and possibly even probably take the command center down. Well, Canata fully and absolutely harasses that 4 o'clock, inside 4 o'clock. BeSt's command center, though, is a huge loss because Canata's not really losing any Nexuses. Take down the Nexus, Canata. Can take that. You want to take down Nexus. He's going to start harassing the lower left hand very nicely, but he's going to really want to take down Nexus along. So you can't allow BeSt to get back into this that way, because if you don't take down